Great. Welcome, everyone. So just a reminder, a little note about artificial intelligence. Please note that the use of automated note-taking bots or similar tools during the Washington FCS events or meetings requires prior approval, and any unauthorized use of such tools is prohibited to ensure the privacy and confidentiality of all attendees. Also, any recording that is created through AI is not recognized as an official recording of this session. And we do reserve the right to exit trainees from the training if they are using AI to take notes without prior approval or using AI to record the session. So with that being said, we will move on to our topic for today. So this is really our first of maybe a few in a series that Dawn and Darren and I have been talking about. Probably over the next few months, maybe after the summer, we'll begin to introduce some more tools around kind of using the employers using the ATS system. We'll talk about what that is, how to really adapt to what are some of those new current usage sorry, of AI in employment settings. So this is kind of our beginning discussion of that. So in today's fast-paced and technology-driven job market, traditional resume writing methods may not be enough for individuals and job seekers to stand out. So we're hoping this session today will begin to inform how to create more modern resumes that are more conducive to standing out in some of the newer environments, particularly the applicant tracking systems that employers are beginning to use. So we are going to get started. Let me just check the chat one more time. So please, yes, use the chat often. Raise your hand if you'd like. Unmute your mics, whatever works best today. But let's get started. My name is Joni Dolce. I am with the Integrated Employment Institute in the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions at Rutgers, the State University, and I've been facilitating the job developers call, which is now called Innovations in Career Services learning community for the last several years. And it's such a nice opportunity to connect monthly with employment specialists and counselors and others who are providing employment related and education related supports for individuals participating in FCS services. And we usually start out with maybe a brief welcome in the chat, which many of you have already started. If you wanted to use the chat as an opportunity to introduce who you are, what organization you're with, it's an opportunity for others on the call today. We have quite a packed call, others to really get to know who else in your area or who else in Washington and maybe regionally you can connect with people are doing similar work to get some, support, build on each other's skills. Our learning community here that we meet monthly, we meet on the second Thursday of every month at 9 a.m. Pacific for an hour, and it's an opportunity to share successes, share challenges. We do have a brief presentation, which is what we'll be reviewing today, kind of looking at those current resume writing skills. But it really is about peer learning and learning from one another and having that open space and the opportunity to really hear what others are doing to either manage some of the challenges that might be developing, or what are some of the successes that people have had and how to maybe help others leverage some of their skills and strengths to have similar successes. So thank you, everyone. Yes, it's a good opportunity to introduce yourselves in the chat, get to know one another. We have been doing this call for, as I mentioned, a number of years, and it's so interesting how people are so responsive to each other in the chat. And, certainly you can raise your hand or unmute your mic to provide resources, to provide information, advice, and so on. So why don't we get started? And let's talk about a success, maybe this past month, that people have had. Um, and you can turn off your cameras if that's a little bit more comfortable for you. Sometimes the bandwidth is a little stretched. But if you want to raise your hand or unmute your mic and let us know a success, and it can be around providing employment services, assisting someone that you're working with and getting a job, or landing an interview, or what that success might be. Let's see if we have anything here in the chat. Nothing yet. So,
Hi, Joni, this is Dawn.
hey, Dawn, how are you?
I'm okay, except I can't access the chat. So
Oh, all right. Let me
yeah,
that's fine. I can
my
I can
computer's
work
messing.
on making you co-host while we
Yeah,
chat here.
I'm not sure how much help I will be today. My
All
computer's
right.
behaving. So just
But
wanted to
thank
let
you.
you know that.
Okay. I added it, but no worries. And I just wanted to do a quick kind of round robin and see what some successes have been. What are you all proud of these last couple of months or couple of weeks, whatever you choose to reflect on? What are some things that are positive that have been happening with individuals that you're working with, or for yourself in your own growth as a practitioner? Great. Someone had a great opportunity with Bellevue College for an outreach and was able to connect a few veterans to helpful services, had some good job coaching sessions too. But a reminder to create a work journal for myself. Yes, I hear you. I too have to remind myself to keep track of some of those activities. Someone else mentioned here in the chat, I was able to place a client at Fred Meyer this past month. Congratulations, wonderful. Um, it's always important to identify those successes first and really think about, what has been going well, what's been working for you, what have those successes been. So use the chat, but we also want to respect the fact that there might be some challenges along the way, and using today and this time that we meet once a month to reflect on those challenges and hopefully get some feedback from others and identify some ways to navigate maybe some of the challenges that you might be experiencing. Oh, great. It looks like someone else is responding to the success question. I placed a client at a local gym. She attended um, in CI services. Awesome. Congratulations. So let's think about what has been a challenge that you may want to get some support for others. Welcome, James. I'm just reading your chat. Passionate about employment, absolutely. I think many of us, if not all of us on the call here, share that same passion. Maybe a couple questions to guide this discussion, thinking about what was the challenge. Maybe there were some things that helped you overcome the challenge. Looking back, what may have been more helpful, and let's think about from a group perspective, what are some suggestions to others who may be experiencing a similar challenge, or what do others in the group here have to offer to maybe support someone who is going through some challenges with employment, or any of the tasks related to supporting someone in their employment and education goals. Someone mentioned my challenge is working in a small community with small amounts of employers who are willing to do job carving. Yes, that certainly can be a challenge. Have others experienced similar challenges working in a small community? Very few employers who might be willing to do job carving, or just in general, fewer employers out there. You can unmute your mics or use the chat to respond. I'll read a couple of other challenges, but it's nice to, if you've had similar challenges where you are, and you're able to respond, please share what might have helped you in those situations when you were working with individuals in small communities, with not many employers, particularly employers willing to do job carving. So think about that. And then also we have another response here. One of the challenges a lot of my clients are dealing with is finding places that are currently hiring that aren't just big name businesses like McDonald's, TJ Maxx, et cetera. Many local businesses are suffering, so they're not hiring much. Are others experiencing similar situations where individuals are um, wanting to maybe work in smaller, more local businesses, but they're not hiring because they might be suffering? It looks like a couple of thumbs up there. People having similar experiences. And then another challenge here in the chat, following up with clients and employers. Sometimes people are not very responsive. Uncertainty with funding and policy is also demoralizing. Can others relate to that? Are others feeling similarly? A challenge or success is physically moving from an office setting to going remote and total digital, while still being available to our clients. Yes. And then a couple of more we'll read, but please, if you have any thoughts about some of the challenges that are listed here and maybe some of the ways that you've been able to overcome this challenge, or maybe just sharing that you've faced something similar. As someone mentions here in the chat, yes, typically local businesses are more flexible in my experience to job carving or accommodating. It's challenging to talk with a real person at big companies in the application stages. Yes, so that's oftentimes hard to get to that person who does the hiring when it's a larger company or organization, especially with some of the bigger companies outsourcing interviews and stuff. And then finally, someone wrote, one challenge can be to keep clients motivated on employment, and their long-term goals. So helping clients to kind of maintain that momentum and movement towards employment goals absolutely can be challenging. Oh, James has a response. At least in our organization, employment seems to be case managers are sole proprietors. The challenge has been information sharing and convincing the organization to put more emphasis on tools that connect employment case managers with a CRM to track employer contacts, to align efforts and share information. Yes, I think that tracking employer contacts is so important. Having that, I think someone mentioned earlier, like a journal or somehow being able to maintain that list of employer contacts with not just who you spoke with and um, where they're from and their contact information, but also what was the outcome and what are some next steps to those employer contacts. So why don't we move on? But thank you. Someone else, just before we move on, low engagement and clients not showing up for appointments, and ongoing challenges. I think, Dawn, we've talked about this, um, also including in sort of a next kind of in our planning stages for this call, looking at helping to resolve ambivalence around identifying employment goals, or even listening for change talk. We've done some work around listening for change talk and hearing that from individuals and how to listen for it and um, help the person kind of really examine that change talk for movement towards employment and other career related goals.
Well, and potentially even at some point in time, discuss some customer service principles that might help.
Mm.
I don't
Yep.
discuss that one, but I know I've been parts of training like that that actually comes up with some concepts to consider that might improve engagement.
Yes, absolutely. So I think engagement is certainly something we can add for our next year's planning. And Dawn and I and Darren ask these questions about successes and particularly challenges so that we can get some ideas about what might be upcoming topics. What are people struggling with? What's a current concern that people have, and how can we, as we develop content for these calls, create create those topics and facilitate topics that are really getting at the core of what some of those challenges might be. So thank you, everyone. And I usually grab all of the information from the chat, and then Dawn, Darren, and I begin some planning around what some of those topics might look like. And then just one final note here in the chat. I have to remind myself that I am here to empower our clients, not enable them to do it. In other words, do it for them. So much growth happens even when clients stumble. We are here to walk them through that and assist them with their next steps. Absolutely. I love that analogy. So let's get started. We're going to cover today sort of an overview of different resume formats. And I'm just going to talk about two in particular, but we're going to really identify how to apply different strategies to format those resumes so that they're compatible with applicant tracking systems. I have a lot of resources that I'll also provide with some sample resumes and some other sample tools that you can access online. In the virtual space to get even more information and more resources and content around this particular topic. And then we're going to talk about some impactful language to make sure that your resume is competitive, or the job seeker's resume is competitive. So before we get started, what are some current concerns or obstacles, or again, related specifically to kind of employers' use of applicant tracking systems? What are some obstacles or roadblocks you're potentially encountering now, or job seekers are encountering because of that? What are some obstacles or examples, or without using anyone's specific information, what are some specific concerns that have arose since kind of more employers are using these? The gaps in employment, absolutely. Individuals having little experience, long breaks in employment, so filling those gaps, not knowing if their resumes are getting viewed by anyone or just rejected from the ATS software. Yes. And I think I have in the resource section, there are different ATS resume checkers that you can assist someone in kind of popping their resume through. It may not be a 100% guaranteed, that it will get checked or passed through to a human after the ATS. However, there have been some really good tools out there that job seekers can use to see if their resume kind of passes that ATS check. And we're going to talk about ways that you can help someone create their resumes so that it's a stronger likelihood that it will get passed um, and not rejected by the ATS software. And then someone just wrote no high school diploma or GED. So I have a video, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to, of course, we'll look at the video today, and um, I have some questions as we're watching the video that I want you to pay attention to, but I also want you to also consider how you might use this video with job seekers you're working with. Anything that is here on our presentation, by all means, share with individuals you're working with. Use it as an opportunity as we're going through some of the content and some of this information. Think about how you'll best use it with individuals you're working with job seekers. Again, this is a brief video, but it's an opportunity for you now to kind of get an understanding of how a resume passes the applicant tracking system. As you watch the video, try to identify at least 3 suggestions made to improve chances of the resume passing the ATS. So as we're kind of engaging with the video, let's actively engage and really write down and think about 3 suggestions that the content creator here is making about how to improve the person's chances of passing the ATS. Applicant tracking system is known as ATS. You want to be careful to not use a style of resume, because we're just kind of focusing on resumes today, a style of resume that will not work with the ATS. For example, you don't want to use any tables or columns or headers or any graphics. You want to use specific job titles like software engineer, administrative assistant, distribution coordinator. And we're going to talk about kind of, once we get into the different resume types, how to identify the hard skills of the job and incorporate those into the resume. And that could be from past experiences like training or your work experience and so on. And we're going to get into this in just a bit, but using the job description, if it's available, to identify what those keywords might be. So we're going to watch the video, and I hope someone can give me a thumbs up or some sort of indication that they can hear it and everything is running fine. But as we're listening and watching, identify 3 suggestions that have been made to improve chances of the resume passing through the ATS. So I'm going to start playing it now.
Are you tired of applying to jobs and getting no response? Say you've applied for so many positions and messaged tons of employers, and still you've heard nothing but crickets. I'm Sinead, and I'm here to tell you that no matter how frustrated you may feel applying to jobs and getting 0 feedback, do not, I repeat, do not question your abilities. Instead, let's evaluate how recruiters determine which
candidate. Is it playing now, Joni? Because I don't see it.
You don't see it? Does anyone else see it?
It looks like I see a couple. No, I see 3 or 4 folks that say that.
Resumes,
so
rather.
It's my computer, which is misbehaving.
Are we okay?
Yeah, no, there's several people that say it's working.
Okay, good.
Get chosen, and which do not, and why. Enter the Applicant Tracking System, or the ATS. Coming up in this video, we'll tell you what exactly an Applicant Tracking System is, how it works, and give you tips to ensure that your resume is optimized for an ATS. Like a lot of things in today's world, the recruitment process can be automated. Recruiters have to look through hundreds of resumes. So in order to speed up the process of finding those who best fit the job requirements, an applicant tracking system pulls specific data and skills that the recruiter is looking for. For example, if Sally from Coffee Mugs Incorporated is looking for a Java developer, including skills like object-oriented programming or Python could increase her interest in your resume, thus increases your chances of being seen. And while not every company uses an ATS, it is so important to know how they work and how to beat them, especially considering that 99% of Fortune 500 companies use them and small to medium businesses are quickly following suit. Within the hiring process, an ATS comes between candidate supply and applicants are screened. See, once you submit your resume, the ATS scans and interprets your information and then categorizes your experience into buckets like education, skills, and experience. And then once your information is sorted, it's instantly compared to the job description. The ATS scans for keywords like areas of experience, skills, and other qualifications like certifications and degrees. It then ranks your resume based on how well your information matches the job description. And the higher your resume is ranked, the more prioritization your resume will get. Now, if you want to be sure that your resume is exactly where it needs to be in order to ensure that you're getting the best job opportunities, you can get an instant scan of your resume right up here. Okay, so there are two main areas where you can optimize your resume for an ATS: format and content. In regards to format, applicant tracking systems are programmed to scan and parse text, which means that any elements of your resume that are heavily formatted can actually cause readability issues. I'm talking images, icons, tables, and columns, which are all considered to be heavily formatted. Using these elements can cause all kinds of readability issues, like covering or shifting your content, or preventing an ATS from parsing sections of your resume. And that's why complex formatting is not recommended. And that being said, perhaps the reason that you did not get called in for an interview was due to your resume format and not your qualifications at all. And because 75% of qualified job seekers are rejected by an ATS due to readability issues, take our advice: use a simple format. Now, in addition to simplifying your format, be sure you also have dedicated labeled sections for your experience, skills, and education, since this is how an ATS categorizes your content. All right, so here's an example of a resume that is not ATS friendly. And here's an example of a resume that has the same content, but is optimized to pass ATS. Do you see the difference? Now, if you want to show off your creative side through your resume, you can do that with a physical copy that you take into your interview. You can also include a link to your creative portfolio or personal website in your heading. But for the purpose of applying for jobs online, a simplified version is going to be your best bet. And as far as file types, stick to a Word doc or a PDF. Any files created with programs like InDesign, Pages, or Photoshop should definitely be converted. Since the purpose of your resume is to land you an interview, of course, simplifying your format can get you one step closer. So for more advice on how to format your resume, be sure to check out this video right up here. And once you've simplified your format, it's time to focus on content. Since an ATS scans for keywords that are coming from the job description, you'll definitely want to take the time to tailor your content so that it aligns with the job that you're applying for. In this example job description, we can see a list of responsibilities and a few desired qualifications. As you're going through a job description, take note of any keywords that stand out. While skills are the best examples of keywords, you can also find them in the responsibilities, education, and certifications sections. For example, we can see that for this position, Selenium and Python are listed on the job description. If these qualifications match yours, you'll want to add them to your resume. Skills and experience can be added throughout, like in your professional summary, your skills section, and your work experience. For skills that you find in the job description, not only do you want to add them to your skills list, but you also want to explain how you use those skills in your experience. Recruiters will verify your qualifications during your interview, so be sure to only add qualifications and experience that you have and never misrepresent yourself. Even if you land the job, you might find that working in an ill-fitting role might leave you feeling less fulfilled and success might be harder to achieve. So when it comes to your job search, think quality over quantity. And remember that the ATS is scanning resumes to find qualified applicants based on keywords from the job description. Use a simplified resume format and tailor your content to the role that you're applying for so that you can ensure that you qualify and also that an ATS and recruiters can see it too. All right, now if you found this video helpful, be sure to give us
Okay, so what were some of the suggestions to improve someone's resume? What were some of the suggestions? No complex formats. I'm reading the chat. Specific headings, use keywords from the job. No tables or columns, simplify, no tables, graphs, or creative. Complex formats, absolutely. How might you use this resource when you're working with someone? When you're working with someone who is in their job search phase, someone who is looking for work, how might you use that video? You can unmute or use the chat. I thought she did a wonderful job, just very matter of fact, to the point. It was really helpful to hear and also see the examples. I also wanted you to take note. She provided some additional embedded resources for the ATS checker piece. So when you get this email to you, you'll be able to explore a little bit more. But would love to hear how you might be able to use this in your work. Kay mentioned, I think I'll be sharing that video with people to show the do's and don'ts of resume building. I didn't even realize Indeed had video content. Yeah, if you follow that video, kind of look at the panel or the pane of all of the additional videos, they have lots, and they're current, brief, easily digestible. And this is kind of what we hope to be able to provide, the resources and other tools that you can continue to use beyond today's training. So we are going to move into looking at some resume formats, chronological, but more of an enhanced chronological, and a skills-based hybrid are the two that we're going to talk about today. I think in the past we've talked about functional resumes, and the skills-based hybrid is really a combination of a chronological, more enhanced chronological, and the functional and skills-based, to be able to balance someone's skills and also the work experience. And we're kind of looking at that, maybe not instead of, but maybe it's a more superior or current modern approach if someone has limited work history. But we'll talk about it when we get to some of these different formats. ATS, as you saw from the video there, kind of has gone through some of those first maybe basic keyword scanning, first generation type ATS. Today, it's a little more nuanced. AI is involved now, looking at not just the keywords, but as was mentioned in the video, format, the structure of it, and so on. And as was mentioned, many resumes, I think 3/4, 75%, are often rejected before they even get to a human to look them over. So we want to make sure that we're assisting people in really creating those really impactful resumes that capture some of those keywords and also adhere to the format and structure. So the chronological or enhanced chronological is really the most common, right? Employers are familiar with the chronological. It's a reverse chronological listing of your work history. Several reasons why this is a good choice for job seekers. As you can see, if people are staying in the same field, it's a good choice. It shows your in-depth knowledge and skills in the field. If you have a history of the same type of work, and certainly if you have no major gaps in employment, the chronological resume is really an ideal resume to use. So here's an example, and here's the website with some additional resources, and where this example is from, and it certainly explains it a little bit more. This enhanced chronological format has the professional summary, and we're gonna look at that in more detail, and kind of do a little activity around helping to create professional summaries. But as you notice, it has the work experience, traditional job title, company name, and so on. This is just like a bare bones sample. But it also lists the key skills. So that's the enhancement. Not only are you listing the achievements underneath the job title in those bulleted format, the traditional way, you're also identifying those key skills. And this is, again, just highlighting one segment of the enhanced chronological format. This does not include, the area where you put in your education um, and obviously the person's name. This is just kind of isolating the enhanced part, where we're adding those key skills. So think about, when you're working with someone, what those achievements might have been, the traditional way that you're identifying the achievements. I'm going to share with you some other resources to really improve those bullet points around achievements. But what are the key skills that the person also learned, or can relate back to that particular work experience? The skills hybrid is a good choice if someone is going into a new field. So if someone has gaps in their work history, um, maybe they're considering a different career, different job field. They might have a history of different job types, and this resume includes both a listing of, and I'll share with you some of the examples, a listing of work experience. However, it also really highlights the skills that someone has developed over the years that may not go neatly within a different job category. So this skills hybrid resume, again, you'll have these, but I wanted to make sure to just share with you what some of these might look like. So you can see each of these resumes has a summary. And then what's nice about this hybrid skills resume is right in the front, right up top, you'll see on both of these examples, there's a summary of skills. So the person has real estate skills here on the left. The person has customer service skills. And they're identifying what those skills are. But the hybrid piece of it, you're not leaving off the work experience. Employers oftentimes expect to see some work experience. And of course, if someone has absolutely no work experience, then you may need to modify this. But you're not leading with the work experience. You're still listing it, but you're listing it after that summary of the person's skills, and then the education, and so on. Any questions about this type of hybrid skills resume? Has anyone used or assisted someone in developing either a skills-based, or in, it used to be called a functional resume? So again, this format kind of gives equal weight, so to speak, to skills, but also a chronological listing of work experience. And those skills, as you saw from the ATS, building a resume that goes through the ATS, are really the key areas that the ATS will be looking at. Yes, yep. just someone in the chat said, yes, they've used this. So here are some examples. But what I wanted to really kind of bring to our attention today and focus on this one piece, if you could leave here today with helping someone with a good resume summary. And kind of answering these questions. What will the person bring to the company? Why should I hire you? So you saw in the examples that I just shared, each of them had a resume summary at the top. We're using resume summary as a way to summarize our experiences, our skills, other qualifications, positions that the job seeker is seeking. It highlights the job seeker's most important qualifications. When an employer first looks at the resume, it'll answer these questions. Why should the employer hire me? What can I bring to the business? So highlight the obvious and not so obvious. So the person has passion or drive or is resourceful or has some creativity, highlight that as well. Using descriptive action verbs. You don't want to repeat information. To ensure that this is ATS friendly, we want to use keywords from the job description and always have someone proofread it. If there are misspellings in the resume, that is almost an automatic, if not an automatic, disqualification through the ATS. So you want to make sure that it's impeccably spell checked. So have someone proofread it or you proofread it. And I do want to go to this website if we have some time. If not, this is a hyperlink and it provides you with hundreds, you can see, of action verbs with examples for the resume. So provides, lots of different ways to say things that have more impact. So I don't know if we'll have an opportunity right now to look at that, but it would be certainly something. Thank you for putting it in there. But yes, Kay, I've heard functional resumes are fairly unpopular with a lot of employers. Do skills-based resumes have the same hurdle? I think the new if we conceive it as a hybrid skills resume, kind of addresses that hurdle somewhat. Yes, a functional resume is kind of on its way out in popularity because of those reasons. Employers aren't really fond of those. They don't really provide much insight. However, that hybrid version really highlights the skills, shows the cluster of skills that the person has in those skill summaries, but also does include the chronological piece that a lot of employers are also wanting to see in that. But thank you, Kay. I think that's a great question. So I'm going to share a summary, just a summary for someone who is seeking a job as a truck driver. So reliable, experienced truck driver with a solid history of safe practices, timely deliveries, and respect for the road, adept at problem solving and scrupulous about following all company guidelines and protocols, proven track record of cultivating positive relationships with clients, delivering shipments successfully and properly maintaining vehicles at all times. So that could be something of a summary, a resume summary for someone seeking a position as a truck driver. So we also, when you're helping someone list accomplishments, we want to help them identify the most impactful language. We want, those bullet points that you see on the resumes under your jobs where you're listing your accomplishments or your achievements. We want those to be able to be qualified and also quantifiable. So for example, in bold print here is just a standard way of saying improved customer relations as the department's quality assurance team lead. Okay, that somewhat illustrates what the person has done. However, to really make that most impactful, maybe say something like improved customer relations by 30% as quality assurance team lead, or implemented quality control measures that reduced client complaints by 70% over a year. You're really seeing how different those two bullets look in comparison to the bolded one. You can really see the employer can really actually identify what that accomplishment was. It's not just a vague mention of improving something or implementing something. You're really sharing accurate rationale for what that was. So again, someone who answered the phones, maybe the person answered phones as a receptionist or administrative assistant. Maybe a more impactful way might be provided frontline support in a busy 15-person office. You can add, the second piece, handling a high volume phone system to ensure effective communication and customer service, or you can cut that off and maybe make that into a separate bullet. Handled a high volume phone system to ensure effective communication and customer service. So helping the person really think about what they did, how that can they quantify what they might have done. This final bullet here, supervised staff. So someone who might have been in a supervisory role. I added the first part of the sentence. How would you finish this? So you might want to say in the bullet, trained and mentored 15 staff members a year. Is there anything that you can think of that you might finish that statement with that would really highlight that person's supervisory skills? Was the training and the mentoring effective at something? Did it help do anything? Maybe it helped improve retention, right? Staff retention. Maybe it helped some of the staff get promoted. So maybe you want to add, that's what my point is. Thinking through what those achievements have been or the accomplishments and how you might help the person present that information in a way that's that quantifies it, but also you know, tells the potential employer, what impact did this have? So what are some examples that you might have of different achievements or accomplishments that you can think of that you can expand to improve and make it more impactful? Yes, yep. I love that, Beth. Reducing days out. Yes, I think that's a great way to kind of end that bullet. Trained and mentored 15 staff members a year, and to reduce days out or reducing job turnaround. Absolutely, Tanina, that's great. Any other examples that you might have that you can think of different achievements or accomplishments? And in the resource section, I have a resource that provides some additional guidance on this and also some suggestions. And this is where you might be able, if you're able to, maybe use ChatGPT just to get some ideas going. Maybe the person knows that they have these different skills and accomplishments, but they may not know how to word it to make it impactful for a resume. And that could be something that you could assist them with, maybe using ChatGPT or other AI resources to help with that wording. You might need to change it. You might need to help them modify it a bit, but I think this really it really highlights how listing accomplishments is more than just listing the accomplishments, really trying to make it impactful and tell the employer what was actually accomplished. So here's an example of a job summary or a a job description for a receptionist. So I wanted us to maybe look at this job description and kind of get a sense of what it is. And I have some questions on the next page, but here are some of the duties and responsibilities of a receptionist. I actually got this from the SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management website, and they have a lot of different job descriptions that you can look at. Of course, it may be very different. This is a more generic job description, and they are more generic. So if you're working with someone, by certainly it's most impactful to get the job description of the company that they're applying for, but we want to look at the job description and tease out some of those skills. As we saw in the video, the ATS tracking system, what are some of those skills that you can tease out to really highlight on the person's resume so that it does improve their chances of it getting through the ATS? So if you were to think about this job description, what would be some skills that you would want the person to make sure they highlight on their resume? What are some of the skills listed here? Oh, sorry. Certainly you see Microsoft Office Suite. Let's see here in the chat. Proficient in Word, yes. Screens, phone calls, takes messages, verbal communication, customer service, yes. You want to make sure that you're helping the person look at the job description and pulling out some of those keywords, multiple phone lines, exceptional customer service, absolutely. So this is just the generic education and achievement. Yep, want to add that as well. Just the generic job description. You'd want to help the person find the one that actually fits in what they're looking for. So I thought we never really do this. However, I was thinking for today, if there was an opportunity for you to do some work-based learning, an opportunity for you to take this information, because it's really more about walking the person through it. That's how you'll learn it. That's how they'll learn it. And this one piece, right, a resume summary for a job seeker. If you happen to show up, next June, if it fits in your schedule, we could certainly review it if you'd like. But write a resume summary for someone and use the following, highlighting their skills, strengths, accomplishments, life experience, obvious and not so obvious, using those descriptive action words that we could peek at right now that will be very helpful. I'm gonna look at that and let's see. So this again has so many clusters of action verbs that you can help someone use in a job search. You can read or, provide this information to a job seeker you're working with, but here are some overused descriptions that you want to avoid. Here's how you can substitute some overused cliches with powerful resume words. So detail-oriented might be a little overused, maybe helping the person look at verbs, action verbs under the researched category. So each of these has a corresponding category of different action verbs. So let's look at the researched category. But it gives, a lot of good information. So here's leadership, and it's got a lot of good, more current terminology that would help someone. Achievement, again, instead of just using the terms achieved, maybe identify some of those more impactful words. So we can go down to researched. Let's see. So people management, customer service, So it gives you a lot of good examples, problem solving. Acquired. So, oh, here's research. So maybe use compiled, considered, discerned, examined. So really, really helping to help the person identify what those more impactful words might be. Yes, thank you for whoever is putting some information in the chat. Wonderful. So yes, check the chat out. We are going to be wrapping up in just a minute or so, but let me get back to the presentation and answer any questions that people might have. I think we are at our end, but it would be great if you had an opportunity to work with someone. Let me make sure. And help them write a resume summary. You can always email me if you have questions and you would like to. This is, I don't think we'll have time for this, but again, it's just another activity. So thinking about what we reviewed today, how might you implement this in your work? What might get in the way? What strategies will you take back with you? I'm going to put, and what additional resources or skills do you need to support job seekers in their job search? So we kind of talked a little bit about what those additional skills might be. But kind of as you're thinking about today's topic, again, it was just a beginning to what I'm hoping will be we'll build some additional webinars beyond today to really get into it a little bit more. But think about how you might implement this, and you don't have to answer unless you'd like to in the chat. What additional resources or skills do you need to support job seekers? And you'll be getting this PowerPoint. Just to summarize, we talked about the ATS, Applicant Tracking System, how to write some resumes that are going to help improve someone's chance to get through the ATS. Looked at some additional resources and so on. It looks like people are interested in some additional webinars on this topic. I'm going to put in the evaluation survey, if you can be kind to enough to complete that. Here's the QR code, and I also added it to the chat, the summary link. So I thank you, everyone. It's about a minute left. We will see you next month. I believe next month's call will be looking at helping individuals with soft skills. So we will see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Here are some additional resources. And I'll put my email here in the chat if anyone would like to get in touch, have additional questions.